Hello and welcome to the Red and White Heart Envelopes card. This is part of the January 2022 Sweet Talk virtual class. I'm so excited to get started on this project. Let's dive right in. This project is labeled project number 3 in your kit, and your kit comes with everything that's already pre-cut. You may need to do a little bit of trimming, but I have already cut the base for you. We are using a sheet of Real Red cardstock for the base. It's a standard base and it's cut at 5.5 by 8.5 and scored in the middle at 4 1/4. I included 2 Whisper White card mats for you. You will need to trim these down slightly depending on what size you like them on the front of your card. The typical size that I am putting onto this card is going to be 4 by 5 1/4. The inside mat you can trim down to whatever size. I do recommend keeping the same size as the outside mat. Next up, we're going to be trimming down a piece of Designer Series paper. I've already pre-cut this for you, but if you wanted to use this layout on other cards, this is what you need to do. I started by trimming this piece down to 4 by 5 1/4 just to get a good starting point. I laid that on top of one of the Whisper White card bases, and then I decided to cut it on the diagonal. So again, these are already done for your kit, but on this, I'm going to cut it from the top left corner to the bottom right corner. And this will give me 2 triangular pieces similar to the layout on our card. However, we're not quite done yet. We do need to trim this down just a little bit to make sure that it completely fits onto that white card mat. To trim it down, you're going to take the diagonal edge that you just cut and you're going to put it back into the trimmer at about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just lining that up here on the little marks on my Stampin' Trimmer, and then I'm going to chop off that 1/8 inch strip. Once I have that done, I'm going to repeat this process with another piece of DSP. Now, one thing you really want to make sure that you pay attention to is if you have a directional print paper. If you do, you're going to want to cut the opposite corners, otherwise your design is going to be backwards. So make sure that you pay attention to which corners you're cutting when you are doing your DSP. Once you have that all cut out, you're going to just place it onto your Whisper White mat to make sure that everything fits and it is the right size. After that, we're going to set that aside and we're going to bring in a couple scraps of Whisper White cardstock. These pieces are already cut for you. Please pay attention to which heart goes with which cutout because they are slightly different sizes. I used Real Red and Blushing Bride inks to stamp these images. If you don't have those exact colors, any red or pink would work fine. And if you don't have red or pink, black would look just as lovely. I am using the coordinating cutouts to cut these shapes, and yours again are already cut. And I'm going to run it through on the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Again, this little machine is just so awesome. I love it. Once those are cut out, next up I cut out the little envelope template. These little envelopes are really handy and they are super cute, as you can see. They're already cut out for you, but if you are doing this on a different layout, I would recommend cutting both of them out of different colors. I really do like having the white as one of those colors because it really ties in with the DSP on this specific project. So if you're doing this outside of this class with other materials, I recommend choosing 3 colors max to kind of play around with on this card layout. If you haven't already seen the coordinating blog post, make sure that you check that out because I am including the layout blueprints for each of these projects today so that you can recreate them on your own with other materials. I'm using a bone folder to crease those score lines to get nice crisp edges, and then we are going to finish these cute little envelopes off by adding the embellishments. To hold them together, I'm going to use some Stampin' Seal, and I'm just going to put it on the two bottom edges on either side. Close the top and then close both of the edges on top of that, and it should stick in place. Next up, I'm going to use some mini glue dots. I'm putting one red heart, which is already cut out for you, in the middle of the envelope over where the flaps meet. And then I'm going to take the extra 3 red hearts and I'm going to put them on with glue dots on the right side of the envelope flap so that you can see them when you go to put on your conversation heart piece. I added this piece with a Stampin' Dimensional and I put the dimensional down before I put on the sentiment. And now it's time to repeat with the red envelope and the white hearts. Again, all of this should be cut out for you. The main thing to note is to put the items on the opposite side from the first envelope so that you have a little bit of contrast in the design. Now we're taking more of that Stampin' Seal and we are putting it on the wrong side of the DSP, and then we're going to adhere that down to our Whisper White card mat. Now we're ready to adhere our envelopes on top of this design. I used Tear and Tape adhesive because it's very strong and I absolutely love it for the heavier elements like these. So I put it on the back and then I put both of these kind of on at an angle to give them a little bit more interest in the layout. I slightly overlapped the red envelope on top of the white envelope. Now it is time to do a little bit more embellishing. I have cut a piece of real red ribbon, which I have already tied into a bow for you. But if you'd like to see how I tie my bows so beautifully, then this is how we do it. 2 little bunny ears, one goes through the loop, and then you just kind of pull the ears and manipulate it as you go to make sure that it's getting into the shape that you want it to be. And then you just cut the edges off at an angle, fluff up the bow. And I did use some Tear and Tape to attach this, but you could definitely use glue dots or Stampin' Seal. Now we're going to add our card front to our card base. I'm using Stampin' Seal to adhere this to the card base. You could also use the Tear and Tape adhesive, but the snail should work just fine. Once you get this adhered to the front of your card, you're also going to trim down your second white card mat and you're going to add that to the inside of the card. I really enjoy adding the Whisper White card mats to insides of cards with darker card bases because it's a lot easier for people to write and read what has been written. I also really like to embellish the inside of the card. You could stamp it with the conversation hearts, or you could stamp it with some of the other elements, the X and the O from this stamp set. I did not stamp the inside of mine, but I would recommend doing that because it just adds a little something extra. And of course, you didn't think I was done there, did you? I am definitely going to add some of these iridescent rhinestones. I have included these into your kit, but I do recommend picking some of these up for your own stash because they are fantastic. I put 2 little ones on the envelopes and then 1 medium size on the left of the white envelope. That completes today's class on project number 3 for the January 2022 Sweet Talk virtual class. I hope you enjoyed that project and got some inspiration for future projects using this layout. I can't wait to jump into our last project with you.